We're back with another episode of the Inspiring Women in CX podcast, a series dedicated to real talk conversations between women in customer experience and technology. For Series 8, we're raising the bar, pushing boundaries, sparking bold ideas, and challenging the CX status quo. Expect fresh perspectives, fearless discussions, and a celebration of women driving change in our industry. I'll be your host, Claire Muscat, and in today's episode, I'll be talking to a seriously awesome lady from right here in the UK. She's a certified CX professional with over 15 years of experience in customer-facing roles. Originally from Spain, she's led global teams across industries like entertainment, hospitality, and cybersecurity. Her action-oriented leadership style challenges norms, especially in male-dominated industries, empowering teams to thrive. As a certified executive and senior level coach, a member of the European Mentoring and Coaching Council, she's a champion for resilience, adaptability, and continuous growth. Allow me to introduce you to today's inspiring guest, Natalia Zarizo-Martin. Hi, Natalia.
Hi, Claire.
How are you today?
I'm brilliant. Today we're recording and it's the hottest day so far in the summer.
Yeah.
So this is perfect.
Yeah, it'll probably be autumn by the time this podcast comes out, but it is indeed a very hot day in London today. But welcome to the Inspiring Women in CX podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, wonderful. We've obviously known each other for a long time now, so this is quite a milestone moment, I think, in our relationship. But also, welcome to everybody who's listening or watching along wherever you are. So, as always, on the Inspiring Women in CX podcast, we're going to dive straight in there, and I'm going to ask you if you could please tell the audience a little bit more about you, your career journey, and how you ended up where you are today.
Yeah, so I am Spanish and I moved to London 21 years ago. And I always talk about myself as the queen of change. I love change. I started in hospitality, moved into music festivals and entertainment, worked for Festival Republic, Glastonbury. Then I moved into the venue management, into the O2 and corporate hospitality. And I went into ticketing, service, customer service, all of it with that customer thread throughout. So I was responsible for delivering the experience in whatever area I was. And my last corporate job was actually in cybersecurity, managing the customer engagement team that was also responsible for the customer journey. And I grew it from a small startup to a global 60 million turnover company, being responsible for 40 staff across 5 different regions.
Wow, you can't get much more different, can you? Festivals and cybersecurity.
Yeah, well, then the last bit, and is where I'm now, this is my last chapter, is I decided to start my own business. And I'm focusing now in executive and leadership coaching, working with women to reach success, whatever that means to them in their own terms.
And I've been very lucky to have the benefit of Natalia coaching me as well along the way. So I'm so glad that you decided to make that decision. And today we're going to be talking about a huge topic that you and I have been collaborating on since before International Women's Day, which is imposter syndrome. Little drum roll. And I know for sure it's something that prior to our International Women's Day activities, I really felt ran my life in many ways. A lot of the anxiety that I felt, particularly around doing new things or being found out as a keynote speaker, that somebody was going to figure out that maybe I don't deserve to be there. But, you taught me it really is all about believing in yourself. And it really isn't that much of a straightforward concept, is it? It's easier said than done in a way, just to believe in yourself. But it's often one of the biggest challenges for those of us who do experience imposter syndrome to master our own self-belief and self-confidence. So I was just wondering if you might be able to share some of your magical steps in how we can start to take new steps in believing in ourselves. I know I've heard them before, but I'd love the audience to hear too.
So I think imposter syndrome can be used as our success catalyst, right? And almost using it as a growth detector, so like a Google map. Imposter syndrome, first of all, it affects 70% of the population at one time, right? So you're not alone. You're actually going through the motions that most of us are going through. But you are never feeling imposter syndrome when you're staying within your comfort zone, right? If you go shopping, if you're with your friends, if you're doing I don't know, those service reviews with clients that you have done over and over again, and it's a template and you're feeling great. Like this is the comfort zone, right? Imposter syndrome normally shows up when you're exposing yourself in a way that you haven't exposed yourself before. And what it's telling you is like, hey, you're uncomfortable. Maybe you need to practice a bit more of this. Maybe you need to gain a little bit more knowledge of this. Maybe you can get support on this. So the three, like the framework for me for imposter syndrome is three parts to it, right? You should actually use imposter syndrome as to cultivate your growth mindset, right? It's like, what is my development plan? How do I make sure that this becomes my comfort zone? And on those happy moments where you're feeling it is when you sit and reflect. Also, I want people to become very aware of their emotions. So normally we're feeling uncomfortable when we're like, oh, I don't want to look into this anymore, right? I want you to look deep into it. I recommend there's a tool, it's available on the internet for free. It's called the Emotions Wheel. Go and download it. Become a lot more emotional literate. Because the more you understand your emotions, the more you can pinpoint the things that you need to attend to. And the last part is shine, and shine bright. And what do I mean with this, right? One of the things when you're going through the imposter syndrome, you're rubbish, you're the worst. Oh my God, I can't believe you're in this situation, Claire, again. Like, you never been able to do this. Why do you think you're able to do now? Right? And the reality is that throughout our careers, we have all hit amazing milestones, right? So, when I was in my 20s, I moved to the UK. And not only I moved to the UK, I actually was driving in the UK, different sides of the road. I was speaking in another language. Then I moved to London, and I decided I want to study, and I got a 2-1 in my career. So over and over, I have data that says to me, you have put yourself in situations that get you out of the comfort zone, and you keep succeeding at them. And on those situations where we might not consider them successful, where we might consider them a failure, we learned. And what we learned, we have normally implemented it in our daily operational ways. So if you keep collecting all of this in what I call the shine file, you will have so many facts to question back that emotion of being inadequate, not being sufficient, and go like, actually, are you sure you're not sufficient? Remember when you did this and this, what emotions were you feeling back there, and how do you feel now about these things? And normally you just go like, oh my God, that was easy, that was all right. Once you go through that growth, you feel great about it. So those are the three things. But the final part about design, and it's something that you and I were talking, is the more you talk about you and how you're shining, you create this ripple effect where A, you might inspire people to share, and B, you might inspire people to tackle the same challenge that you just went through.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot to unpick there, isn't there? So I'm just thinking about my experience of working with you on this stuff. Like, I found it really helpful in terms of experiencing imposter syndrome as a growth catalyst, or a sign that you're growing, was to try to reinterpret some of the physical sensations that I'd get with anxiety. So I've got a trick now where instead of going, I'm nervous, okay, I'm excited about doing something. And because the physical symptoms are so similar, anxiety and excitement, actually I think I can trick my brain now into thinking I'm excited about doing something scary. And talking about emotional literacy, like, I know how many times you sent me that emotions wheel, and I don't know why, but I do struggle to label my emotions a lot of the time. And I'm definitely that person that would typically feel something negative or perceive it as negative and be like, I absolutely want to shut the door on that straight away. So you said about like taking the time to kind of sit with the feeling and like let it be there, and to actually, it's a bit like your shine file, to see that you can tolerate that emotion rather than having to just shut it down has been really powerful for me.
Yeah. And, I'm going now through some emotions coaching training. And there is 6 different models to it. But one of them, when I first saw it, is emotions are neither good or bad. And I was like,
yeah, not judging them.
Tell me more about this. And the reality is that we judge the emotions, right? You love to feel happy, excited, loved. Those are the emotions that I want plenty of them, right? And then you go into sadness, stress, anxiety, and you go like, these are bad. I just want them over with. When in reality, all those emotions are highlighting things that you need to address. So the things are not going away. Even if you try to hide emotions, you can, like there's people that hide them with doing lots of activities or like going out drinking with your mates. It comes back to you, right? Like this is something that is there. And the longer you ignore them, the bigger that it can get. And the thing is, all these moments and all these emotions are necessary for us to experience and grow. And the more I always say, like, it's like going to the gym, right? Working with your emotions. If I try to do 15 push-ups now, I give you 6. I won't give you 15, right? But if I practice every day, I will give you maybe 20, who knows? And when it comes to emotions and even identifying your emotions, you need to practice. You need to sit there and go like, am I feeling scared? Or I'm actually feeling lonely? Or am I feeling undervalued? Or am I feeling just
angry.
There's so many emotions. Yeah, angry. Yeah, there's all these emotions. And if you're feeling angry, what makes you feel angry? What was that part that triggered that feeling in you? And I always say, feed your curiosity. To me, curiosity has taken me to so many amazing places, so many developments in the relationships that I had. So it's about, as you say, it's about reframing them. There is no good or bad emotions. There's emotions that might make us feel better than others, but all your emotions are valid, and it is important that we recognize them and we give them a space.
Yeah, and I think we're going to probably talk a bit more about emotional intelligence during the course of this conversation for sure. And then I was just reflecting on that word "not enough" or that feeling of not enough, or kind of conversely feeling like too much. It's interesting, isn't it, that women more typically experience the not enoughness and the too muchness. I wondered if you had any like perspective on where that maybe that comes from and why it's more prevalent in women.
Oh my God. I mean, how many times have you been told, even as a child, be quiet, like just shut up. You don't need to speak. Like, and even in meetings, in many occasions, I was the only woman in the room. You have had the same situations, right? And how many times you have been spoken over, or been told like, oh, can you take notes? Can you make the tea? Like, so you suddenly are like, oh. And there is a part of us that we've been told that we need to please, that we don't need to be, we don't need to disagree. You don't want to create conflict. So that kicks in. That's in the back of our head. It kicks in. You have grown up being told this, right? And you need to look pretty. Don't be insolent. Don't be insolent. How many times as a child you were told that? And obviously it becomes part of your DNA, right? So when you step into the corporate world, or forgive entrepreneurship, then you have to step into your power, right? And there's so many occasions where you have actually facts on people criticizing you. And even like, I was talking to Rebecca Brown yesterday about, I was in a meeting one time with 2 other ladies. We were talking about our office being refurbished. So we were getting the pitches from the different companies. And one guy came and he's like, who's the decision maker? And we say, we are. And he asked again, is there no one else that is the decision maker? And we're like, no, it's us 3.
Oh gosh.
Okay. So no one else needs to sign off on this. And the three of us ended up baffled. And then we clicked. We're women, right? He expects someone else to have to give the sign off. And there's all these these microaggressions that we go through that kind of keep proving like, oh, do I want to pick this one? I don't know. Because also you don't want to pick every single one, right? You don't want to go like, I'm here, I'm going to create my presence and I'm going to claim my space because I have a valid point. And a lot of the time we walk away from a meeting, I did it many times, going like, I should have asked that question. That was a very good question. But I don't want to because I'm going to make him uncomfortable. So I always talk about claim your space, because every time you don't ask that question, every time you don't speak up, if your leader is a good leader and they have thought everything through, you help them to reaffirm that the thinking was right. If there is gaps in their thinking, then you highlight what the gaps are and help them to be a better leader or a better colleague, a better team member.
And I think that was one of the main messages, wasn't it, from our International Women's Day campaign, was like imposter syndrome isn't actually all in our heads. There's actually a lot of systemic root causes of women not feeling included, particularly in workspaces that are male dominated, where we do question ourselves more than we need to, but it's because we've been working in male dominated environments where we have been experiencing, that you said, over a period of time in our careers, microaggressions that have internalized to some degree to make us think, can I do this? Am I enough? I don't look like a straight middle-aged white man. Like, can I lead? So I think it's like trying to, we can't dismantle the system, but in dismantling that internalized system that we have, that the experience has been real for sure. And the more that it's not just about gender, is it? It's about race, sexual orientation, neurodivergence, but not letting that be the reason that stops us, because it does exist. How do we deprogram ourselves? And I think some of these tools are super handy to do that. Because the final one I was thinking about was, because I know you've done it with me, I quite often experience times where I think I'm stuck, like I'm just not getting anywhere. Like there's been a period of time where I've stopped making progress in my head, like, and you'll be like, okay, well, let's look back 6 months ago, like what has actually happened in this last 6 months, and you get me to reel off like all of these incredible milestones that I've hit, or like goals that were set years back that have now happened, and the evidence aspect of like you call it the shine file, but being able to interrogate, is this really true? A lot of the time with some of those negative like beliefs that we have about ourselves that hold us back from believing in ourselves, it's actually bullshit in our own heads. It's not the truth. Actually, we might be highly capable of having smashed loads of goals and targets, but because I suppose working in a startup environment as an entrepreneur, like we move so fast, like quite often we don't get to stop and reflect. So if I experience like maybe even like 2 weeks that have felt like I haven't smashed something massive out of the park, then I start to think I'm a failure. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, but it's really addictive, right? Because in startups also you do things very quick and there's big things that happen really quick. So that dopamine goes through the roof, right? So if you're not getting those hits, constantly, you're like yeah. But and this is why it's really important, because you will forget. If I say to you, tell me about the milestones that you hit in 2021, you'll be like, who has time for that? I'm lifing, right? So this is busy. So if you go and you have like, my shine file is a one note document, and I have the years, like I create just a table, and I put 3 things that I did very well and 3 things that I learned that month. And I just grow it and grow it. So I can tell you what I did in 2020 that was really good. And obviously for me now, that's super little, right? That doesn't really matter. But to Natalia 2020, that was huge. And now those things that I learned are just default in my head. They just click. So this is why it's really important to see how we grow, because it's really easy to forget when we're in that time that we might not grow in, or we feel stuck, or we're down, because we all have those times. We're never going to stay up here all the time.
Yeah, constantly. Sorry to interrupt your listening, but I just wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit more about Wix. We're the world's first online membership community for women in customer experience. Our mission is clear, and that's to unleash the power of women to lead the future of human-centered business. Working in CX can feel lonely at times. We're often single-handedly trying to change the way organisations think and behave about customers. On our paid platform, you can discover a vibrant tribe of fellow female professionals, find support from knowledgeable peers, learn best practices from experts and practitioners, and be inspired to up your game through leading-edge CX and EX thinking. If you feel like you aren't making enough progress with your CX objectives, are unsure about what your next move looks like, or struggling to achieve your career ambitions, you're not alone. To learn more about membership, see how women are progressing personally and professionally with the support of the #1 community in CX, you can apply to join us today by visiting www.womenincx.community/membership. I really hope I get to see you there soon. I suppose like relating this back to customer experience now, we've talked about emotional intelligence, haven't we? In customer experience, emotional intelligence and awareness are especially critical. Not only thinking about customer interactions, but also, gaining leadership buy-in, or even managing internal team dynamics. So how can we use emotional awareness to help us to navigate imposter syndrome? Is there anything else that we haven't talked about?
Well, I think especially, like when it comes to CX, and you collected data in 2023, right? About like imposter syndrome in customer experience is higher than in other industries, right?
For women,
and
yeah, it is.
Yeah, and you have 84% of respondents that actually says, yes, I experience it, when the average in the world is 70%, right? So there is this, I think there is this uncertainty constantly in CX, right? Because you're constantly trying to show more tangible value, because there's a lot of people that might say, well, you're not a revenue generated, right? And you go like, well, tell sales that, because if they don't go through these different touch points that I create and I curate, they won't do the sales as well. And once we are post sale, if they don't go through all these different touch points, they will not renew. But you're constantly trying to be very creative and evolving. And the thing about customer experience, right? There is that part of you that your focus is constantly on what else can I be doing. So there is this continuous improvement mindset for all of the professionals that is attached to their work and to their person. So therefore, you always stepping into uncomfortable territory that is unknown, because you might be the first person doing it.
I suppose because you're coaching quite a lot of women that work in the customer experience industry. Is there anything like similarities that you see between us, or?
Well, I think in women we need to work in our confidence constantly. Is part also the shine fall that we were talking. We need to work on that, but we need to work a lot on visibility. We tend to make ourselves small. We just don't want to be visible, even when we're acing it. I'm just like, okay, who do you share this with? Where is it published? How do you share it to your team, your company? Have you published it in the community or in LinkedIn? Like, how are you creating that personal brand? Because not forget that now personal brand is at the top. You should always be very aware of how you're building your personal brand, because this is what gets you into the next job. This is what gets you that promotion. This is what gets you that speaking gig, or that funding, or that client if you're an entrepreneur, right? So we need to do more of that. We need to be more visible, but also we need to be more visible. We go back to that shine aspect, right? Because we need to have more role models to look around, right? So, and I see that we shy away from those things. And therefore, if we're more visible, we actually would get probably more feedback, positive and negative, but more feedback. Then we can keep increasing our development path. We can keep increasing our log file, and then we keep inspiring each other and supporting each other. So I think those three aspects for me are the ones that I see the most.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. So back to your story again. Was there ever like one particular barrier or challenge that you've overcome to become the woman you are today? It could be either personal or professional. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I think for me the biggest one was moving into cybersecurity, and
Mm.
this is because I'm always like very high energy, and obviously I was used to the music industry, concerts,
Mm.
and suddenly I'm there and I'm like, I do not know anything about this. And I was sitting, I still remember a conversation with someone. I was sitting on a sofa 2 months in, and I was like, I think they got the wrong person.
Mm.
I I don't know why I'm here. Like, I don't understand. I sit in meetings and I'm like, I make notes and I don't really know what it means. I read
Oh
them and
wow.
I can't interpret. So it was very important because someone said to me, and that really stayed in my head. The moment a company hires you, they know you're amazing. Otherwise, they're not going to hire you for pittiness, for charity. They are going to hire you because they think you're good, you have the experience, and you can bring something to them. So instead of trying to prove your value that they already know, just focus on the learning, focus on building the relationships.
Mm.
I had a really good manager at the time that she actually gave me really clear goals. It's like, hey, this is what I expect from you. If you hit this, I'm happy. And it was all very much about listening, see, and this was the first time that formally happened to me. One of my goals was to get a mentor.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I never had an official mentor. Obviously, you always have unofficial mentors, people that help you. But
Yeah.
it's the first time I didn't have one, I had two. So I have a leadership mentor and a technical mentor. And my technical mentor, I will go to him and say, hey, there's all these terms that I don't really understand. I want you to explain it to me like if I was a 5-year old. And they created that environment where I could be very vulnerable and say,
Mm.
I don't understand. And this is the
Mm.
important part, right? How do you create that psychological safety so that people says, I don't really understand. And they don't feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna find out, I'm gonna be found out, like they're gonna think I'm rubbish. That was a really hard learning for me. But the thing is, when you do customer experience, you could do it
Mm.
anywhere. You can do it in a club, or you can do it on an airline, or you can do it on a cybersecurity space, because the basics are the same. And then it's all about bringing your uniqueness to it. So if you feel like you're not in an environment that you can say, I don't really know, join a community where you can say, how many times do you see, guys, I need to do this project? Who can help? Who has experience? Please give me some tips. Because it's really
Yeah.
important to say, I don't know, and knowing that you're not going to be judged.
Yeah, I was going to say though that I don't think that is as an unusual experience, because when I transitioned from hospitality, so Whitbread and Compass Group, into retail, Sainsbury's, like I walked in expecting that because I understood customer experience, this will be easy. I can just go and apply what I know into this new industry. And I did do, I think, what you're saying. Like, I didn't own that I didn't know. I was just desperately like trying to like hide the fact I didn't really understand what was going on. And it was made it so hard, like that harder than it needed to be. And I actually got like checked by a really senior manager who created that psychological safety and said, like, you know, we don't expect you to know how commercial retail works, and it's okay, you've only been here like 10 days, like you don't have to know everything. And she advised me, you know, just to take that time to learn about the business rather than trying to jump straight into action. So I suppose that would be like my tip, being older and wiser now. Like if I was in that same situation again, like I am now with Women in CX Consulting House, working with clients in things like energy industry, like literally I have no idea. Well, I had no idea about what was going on in there, but I still need to come in and be able to apply my craft. but owning the fact that I don't know, and asking the obvious questions of being like, what does that acronym mean? Like building a glossary, being able to own that and actually say, I don't know, this isn't familiar to me. I've only, I've come from this kind of background, and people being, oh, actually, yeah, I can explain that to you, and they're not like ever rude about it, or like, it's that same thing, isn't it? So my imposter syndrome would say to me, you need to know everything to be good. Whereas the truth of it is actually you can be vulnerable and say, actually, I just don't know. I don't know. I'm new to this. Own that, be vulnerable about it, get the help that you need, and make your life a hell of a lot easier if the ego bit of the imposter syndrome isn't telling you, you should know this, Claire. You should know all of this.
And you touch on a very good point, right? And I think it deserves highlight. Okay. You don't need to know everything. You just need to ask good questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it changes. Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's one of the members in our community put on a post the other day about, like, I've just moved into this new company, like what should I do? My number one piece of advice was just take the first 90 days to ask questions and listen before you try to make any decisions or changes. And trust me, because based on the fact that I didn't do that when I made a massive transition.
But even we were told, I went to a training session on change, right? And they were talking about, like, the emotions, the feelings that you have when change happens. And someone was saying, I'm really angry, I just want to point out all the things that they're doing wrong. And I'm like, do it, but ask it as a question.
Yeah.
Have you considered this? How is this going to impact this? Right? Yeah. Because you are collaborating. Yeah. So it's about building that collaboration constantly, whether you're at the start of the job, whether your job is going through major change. If you're in a board meeting and you're like, what the heck? Haven't you listened to all the other things? So actually ask good questions that build collaboration and put you in a perspective of a supporter for everything and anything that you're involved.
Yeah. No, that's good. And as we've been talking so much about community, that's my second to last question is, obviously you're involved in our community, but also a lot of other communities. How has being part of a community for you really advanced your personal professional journey?
Well, when I decided to start my training as an executive and leadership coach, I turned to Women in CX for my guinea pigs. And I was like, anyone wants to? And, it was amazing because I got to experience people in big corporations and also startups. And that was that part of the support. But last year when we were at the Women in CX conference, I was very doubtful of what I wanted to do next. And I was in that room surrounded by so many awesome women. There's so many great topics that we touch. And you ask us, what would you like to achieve in the next 12 months? I think that was the question, right?
Where'd you like to be in a year?
And I was like, I actually want to be coaching women. And then we went for dinner and I met one of my guinea pigs, Susana Baque. And Susana Baque, and Susana went, if you start your business, I would be your client. And it was that very day, the 10th of October, that I just went, I get goosebumps. I'm telling the story and I'm getting goosebumps. It was that very day that I was like, why would I not try? Like, I already have people that is supporting me. And, like, you have been such an advocate for me. I was like, I want to talk more about imposter syndrome. I'm so tired of it. And this is all the things that I'm doing myself and I have been doing for years. And you're like, yeah, that's an amazing topic. Let's go and do it. And I think when you have a community of people that you're like, I have a crazy idea. And someone goes like, yeah, that's an amazing idea. Go do it. It's great. Yeah. And also when you go like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, then it's like, well, let me help you. I had Lara Honey as a mentor. It's just the support of the community is so important. And now also as an entrepreneur, like I belong to a business accelerator, and that support of like we know nothing because we're so lost, because I'm an excellent coach. I'm so amazing. I'm not great at social media and marketing and sales. So it's actually really great to learn from each other and share best practices. And it's a community can be as good or as bad as you make it. And if you put in time, you get back in abundance.
So true. So true. So on that note, Natalia, what would one piece of advice or your top takeaway be for the Women in CX podcast listeners?
Well, start your Shine File. If you haven't done it yet, start it. Make sure that you put a reminder in your calendar every month, every week, whenever you want to do it. It won't take you more than 10 minutes, but do it. Then make sure you talk about it, right? Because you will inspire other people to do the same. And that ripple effect is priceless. Whenever you're feeling that imposter moment, just sit with it, understand where it's coming from, what's the nature, what's the emotion, and where do you want to go with it? What are the areas that you might need to develop or grow? What support you might need? And just do not try to run away. Just look at it and sit side to side, like if it was a friend that you just had a little argument with.
They're really good tips. So thank you to everybody who listened or watched along, and thank you so much, Natalia. It's been wonderful to have you on the Inspiring Women in CX podcast.
Thank you.
And yeah, I suppose just a thank you from the bottom of my heart, because of the coaching sessions you had with me earlier this year. You know, I actually went for it and did my IVF cycle, which I was and ahhing for years about doing, wasn't I? So it really helped me to get focused and actually step into action. And also to take Buster to his very first show, which we won. So when we were doing our goal setting of the things I wanted to achieve, the two huge ones, that I don't think maybe I would have made time for it, or would have kept putting it off, or I wouldn't have registered him for that show. And yeah, it's been epic to have worked with you, as well as got to know you in the community and beyond. And I'm just really glad you're part of Women in CX, and that you made that decision to become an executive leadership coach, because you're brilliant at it.
Well, thank you for your kind words. I think like I vibe of women energy, and I think what you have created is quite magical, and there is all these different benefits that we are actually getting out of it. So thank you so much. Thank you to the Women in CX community. Thank you to anyone that is listening, and just keep shining bright.
Yes, keep shining. And we'll try not to cry now. We're both welling up, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm like.
Well, we'll see you all next time. Bye for now. Thank you. Bye. Bye, Natalia.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Thanks for listening to the Inspiring Women in CX podcast with me, Claire Muscat. If you enjoyed the episode and you don't already, please do drop us a like and subscribe to our channel. The bigger the following, the bigger the impact we can create in our mission to amplify the voices of women working in CX and technology. Well, that's all for now. See you all next time.